What's going on, guys? It's Jono. In this video, we're going to be building out a AI-powered podcast generator. So if you're looking to essentially be able to remove yourself from the process of creating podcasts, except for maybe one click of a button just to do a quick quality check, then this video is for you. Let's dive into it. So here's an example of what that podcast may sound like.
Apple will introduce its latest iPhones on Monday, integrating advanced artificial intelligence features aimed at mainstream adoption.
Pretty cool, hey? And the thing about this is that you can add in your own voice, first of all, and you can generate it however you want. And how specifically we're going to be doing it in this video is we're going to be building out a module like this or a scenario in make.com. If you guys are unfamiliar with make.com, we're going to be going through this from start to finish. Even if you've never used make.com before, you'll be able to pick this up, no problem. And we're going to be using this scenario, which is essentially finding an RSS feed online, which is like, think about like a news site, right? They have something called an RSS feed where they essentially publish their blogs too, and you can find articles, and then you can essentially create a title and a description. We're going to post that into a Google Sheet here from the article, right? And as long as you like the title and you like the description that artificial intelligence came up with for that article, then we can go ahead and we can click the checkbox here, right? Where we're publishing that particular podcast that we just created. And then in the second different scenario here, what we're going to be doing is when we check confirm to publish, we're going to send that to ElevenLabs, which is an AI technology, which will turn text into speech, right? Using your own speech. And then we're going to publish that to SoundCloud, which you could just disseminate across all different platforms like Apple or Spotify to get your podcast out to the world. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing in this video. So if that sounds like something that you guys are interested in, then stay tuned because we're going to be building this out from the ground up. Now, just before we get started here, guys, if you're new to this channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below because I'll be releasing content just like this video pretty much every single day. So if you like this content, I'm sure you'll like the other videos that I produce as well. And if you have comments, leave them down below. I'll get back to you ASAP here, and give me a thumbs up if you like this type of content as well. So let's dive into it right now. And as always, guys, if you do want to download this blueprint, it is free in the description below. You just have to come into make.com, hit these 3 dots here, the more section, and then import this exact blueprint in. Once you import the JSON file, which is in the description below, you can have this exact scenario for free. You just have to add in the right connections like ChatGPT and Google Sheets, and then you can save it and use it whenever you'd like. We're going to be using 3 pieces of technology to build out this workflow. The first one is going to be ElevenLabs. So this is going to turn text into speech. So actually take a look at some of these. It's pretty crazy.
Our distrust is very expensive.
That's 1.
If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door.
2.
Just trust yourself, then you will know how to live.
As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
It's actually kind of funny because when I started listening to these voices for the first time, I'm like, man, I swear to God, I've heard these like a million times before. And the answer is because I have. Like literally people are using this all the time to build like faceless videos in TikTok or faceless videos in Instagram or YouTube or whatever, right? So this is obviously super popular. And this is what we're going to be using today. Super, super lifelike. The second platform we're going to be using is make.com. This kind of ties everything together. It's an automation platform that allows you to connect things like ElevenLabs to things like SoundCloud. So you can post that podcast onto SoundCloud, for example, right? So it connects tons of different technology together. And then the last piece we're going to be using is RSS, or really simple syndication, which will be helping us pull different posts in so that we can use that as inspiration to create our own ideas, right? So let's get started. We're going to be using make.com. Now, if you guys have not ever used make.com, then first of all, I recommend taking a look at the course that I made where I walk through how you can, all the way from creating an account all the way to becoming a master. But, if you guys are already familiar with it, then we're going to go ahead and create a scenario here. Now, just one thing, if you guys don't have a make.com account, it is free to get started. So you can get 2 scenarios, I believe, for free. But once we're inside, we're going to click this big purple button, create a scenario in the top right corner. And we're going to start with an RSS feed. Okay, so Essentially, this has a built-in trigger, which is watching for RSS feed items, and we have to provide a URL, right? So this URL is where it's going to pull articles from. So I'm going to do New York Times RSS feed. We'll just start with this, right? And when I log in here, and I take a look at their website here, I can see that there's tons of different RSS feeds that we could potentially be using. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to select the technology RSS feed. And you can actually see like all these different articles. And you can see it because if I just close this, these are all separate articles, right? So in this case, the title is How to Get AI Features on Older iPhone Model, right? Next title is Apple Glow Time Events Put New Apple Watches, iPhone 16 on full display. So these are the kind of articles that we're going to be grabbing, right? And how we grab this is just by copying the URL up top here and then popping it into the URL field here. And the maximum number of results returned is really how many articles that you want to grab. So in this case, I'm just going to put 50, right? And that's essentially it. I'm going to click Advanced Settings and okay, perfect. So we're good to go. And I can just click OK. And we can select from all RSS feed items. And this is going to pull in 50 different items, all from this RSS feed here, right? So it's going to pull in the most frequent 50 articles. Doesn't even look like there is 50. So it's probably just going to pull in everything. If we click Run, then we're going to get all of these articles. Super cool, right? It actually looks like it's limiting us at 20. So that's awesome. Now, what we want to do first is once we grab these articles, we want to move them over to a spreadsheet like this so that we can determine whether or not we want to publish these, right? Because for me, like, especially if my voice is attached to the podcast, I don't just want to be publishing everything at any point in time without taking a look at it. You can do that if you want to. I just think that, you know, it's probably best to at least do some quality check and make sure that you're happy with what's being sent out. So we're going to dump this into a Google spreadsheet, and then that way you can take a look. If you like it, great. You just click the publish check mark, and that publish check mark is just right here in column F. And then as soon as you do that, it's going to be uploaded, right? If you don't like it, you can delete it or whatever. So what we need to do is get information from this RSS feed, and we need to dump it into this Google spreadsheet right here. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So we're going to click the plus module here, and we're going to choose Google Sheets, okay? And we can choose update a row, and we need to connect this Google spreadsheet into make.com, right? So the first thing is you need to choose the right connection, and whatever connection you choose up here has got to be the same connection as up here, right? So I just went ahead and just paired these up so they're the same. And then we have search method. This is how you can identify which spreadsheet it is that you're looking for. In this case, I just like always selecting from all, and it gives me the spreadsheet ID section here, and we just need to find this one, right? And we know the ID because it's actually in the URL. It's this massive like random assortment of numbers and digits and all that kind of stuff after the d/ and before the / edit. So we'll go ahead, we'll copy that, we'll bring it back in here, and it's going to automatically load this spreadsheet up. You can see the little dots there. Perfect. And sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes it just has map automatically set here. This is super annoying. So just make sure to unmap that. And we're going to select the spreadsheet name. In this case, I just have one spreadsheet name. These are like kind of like tabs down here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but this is just pulling in the specific tab, and you can have as many here as few as you want, but by default you have one, which is sheet 1. Okay, sweet. And it's going to ask us for the to choose the row number, which means that we actually selected the wrong one. We don't want to update a row. We want to create a new row. So we want to add a row to the spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this one. But before I do, I just copied in the ID. We're going to link this up again to the correct sheet. We're going to choose from all. And because I copied the ID there, I'm going to paste it back in. Okay, choose sheet 1. And what the difference is here is that we're adding a row. We're not updating a row. If we're updating a row, we would have to find that particular row and then update the values in it. But we're not looking to update something. We're just looking to add something to it. And There we go. We have it right now. And we're going to do something called mapping. And what mapping is that in make.com, what makes this so powerful is that every module, every next module, so take Google Sheets here, has access to all the variables in the past module. So in Google Sheets, we have access to all the information in this RSS feed. So if I go in here, I can map in the idea. So I can put the title, for example, that we receive from this RSS feed into the idea tab. And then we can put the description field into the description tab, right? So that's super, super cool. We can click OK, and we can actually run this, right? And the reason why it didn't work here is because we need to choose where to start. And what we're going to do is we're going to select all RSS feed items and run it again. Cool. And you can see it's going through every single bundle right now. So because there's 20 results, it's going to complete this 20 times. And now we have all of these different results here. So that's really, really cool, right? Really, really cool. But obviously that's not all the information that we want. We want to grab in the AI generated title, content, URL, all of that kind of stuff. So coming back in here, we just got to add a couple more things. So first of all, the URL, we need to add in from that RSS feed, right? And that's it from the RSS feed. Now we need to create our AI generated title and description. So what we can do here is we can add a module, and this is going to be both modules here that we're adding for both the description and the title are going to be ChatGPT modules, and lots of different options to choose here from. But in this case, we're going to do create a completion, prompt GPT 3, 3.5, and 4. And there's a couple things going on here, which I'm going to break down. So first thing is the model number. You can choose. I typically like using the latest model. It is the most expensive model to use, but it does deliver the best results. And especially if I'm going to clone my voice on something, I want to make sure that it gives me the best results possible. So it creates the best script, right? So obviously we're going to edit this later on, or have the opportunity to, but I just want the rough draft to be as good as possible. Max tokens. So when you use something like ChatGPT, it does charge you on a token basis. The more tokens you use, the more expensive it'll be. So, but also the longer the message is. So if I put like 5 tokens here, it's not even going to give me a response because it's just not enough credits to actually create a full title, right? But if you put like something like 200, it probably will give you a good title. One more thing here, guys, is with the connection, you do have to add in your ChatGPT connection here. So if you click the add button here, it's going to ask for the API key and the organization ID. All you got to do is go to platform.openai.com. And then in the top right corner here, you just select profile here. And you'd head over to the API keys here, right? And then you can just create a key here. And then the organization ID is in the organization tab here. You can grab both of those, paste them in here, and you're good to go. You are going to need to add $5 credit to your account. If you don't do that, you're not going to have a balance of $0, which means you can't use the API. I know that with ChatGPT, it is free to use, right, on the basic free plan, but we're not accessing ChatGPT, we're accessing ChatGPT's API, and that is a pay per usage model. So you have to pay right away in order to use it. So just go ahead and add $5 if you haven't done so already. And then we can come back in here and complete the rest of this. So in the messages tab here, we're going to add a user message, and we're just going to say, please create a title for this news article. And then we'll put title here and description. Okay, sweet. And we're just going to pass in the title, and we're going to pass in the description here. Cool. And that's going to provide us with the title. And I'm actually going to clone this, and I'm going to do this one more time. But in this case, we're going to say, please create a description here. And I've actually wrote this out in this module here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over and just read it back to you guys, just so you kind of get the sense of what's going on here. This is going to be, we're going to start with a system announcement here. And essentially what we're saying is write a podcast title. Sorry, this isn't going to be the podcast title. I grabbed the wrong one there. We're going to write a podcast script based on the article provided. The script should be a third person monologue presented in a new style format. Keep it concise with a maximum of 3 sentences, focusing on the core details of the story. Avoid including any website mentions, introductions, and outros. The introductions and outros here, sometimes ChatGPT is like, hey, sure, no problem. I can create a podcast for you. And then you don't want it to actually say that when you release it. And then it's like your voice and it's like, hey, I can create a podcast for you, no problem. Here it is. Obviously, that's super embarrassing. I'm just going to keep it at 3 sentences for now, just for testing purposes, just so that I don't like spend 2 years waiting for the response time. But yeah, you can keep this as long as you want. Just I think one of the biggest things with Make.com and what will speed up your workflow is when you are testing things, just keep things short so that you don't end up taking forever and spending a lot of money on ChatGPT tokens as well. Okay, so that's going to be the first message here, which is going to be system. And then the second is going to be the user message. And with this user message, we're essentially just passing in information about what we want it to write about. So we're going to pass in the title, and then we're also going to pass in the description here. I have this strip HTML around it. If you go into the A here, you'll get access to like text functions. And you can just add in strip HTML, which is right here. And the reason I'm doing that is just because if this comes in HTML format, then it's going to remove that, right? So it's a good idea to add that for really everything when it comes to RSS feeds, because sometimes they just return results in HTML. I'm going to do the same thing over here too, so that we remove all HTML from this. Okay, awesome. And that looks good. We're actually good to go here. The only other thing is I just want to add in max tokens 1,000. And now we've generated a title and we've generated a description for this particular podcast. So we can go ahead and enter in these results here. So if we kind of zoom out here, we have 2 modules, right? The first one, which is the second one down here, and you can see it shaking or wavering right here when I hover over the results. So this is the title, and I'm going to map in that title to the title section in this Google Sheet here. So now when this is generated, it's going to put the title that we generated using ChatGPT in the title section. And then I'm also going to put the content, which is this result here, and you can see it wavering right here again when I hover over it. This is going to be the description that we generated using ChatGPT, and this is going to be in column D, which is content. Awesome. So we're good to go. We can click OK here, and then I'm going to save this, and we're going to run this module. Okay, sweet. And it should provide us with some results here in column D. You can see it didn't there. And the reason why, I believe, is because the output, we didn't select the right starting place for this, which we have to choose where to start and select all RSS feeds and then click run here. Okay, sweet. And now we're going to generate all of these RSS feeds. Okay, perfect. I'm going to actually stop it there. Oops. And we're going to take a look at the results that we got here. Sweet. So we have all of these results here. So US argues Google created ad tech monopoly. So that looks pretty good. And then we have the title here, which is title US government takes on Google in landmark ad tech monopoly trial. And then it gives us a nice little podcast script here that we can use as well. Now, obviously, we want to remove title from this. So we'll go back in here and we'll just tell ChatGPT in another message, which will be a system message, to not mention title when giving a response. Okay, sweet. So that looks good to me. So we're pretty much there. I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete all of these, and we're going to start again. We'll insert in a checkbox here. Where is the checkbox? Okay, perfect. So we'll insert that in and we're good to go, right? We've completed the first section where we scrape data from an RSS. We create a title and a description. We post it into the Google spreadsheet here. But let's say that instead of just, generating this, right? Maybe we want to have multiple different RSS feeds that we can pull information from, right? Well, we can go ahead and simply create that. And how we create that is by adding additional steps before this, right? So a couple things is like in this module, you can see there's only one URL, but let's say you have like 10 different places you want to extract information from. Well, we're going to build our way backwards here and generate, or create a scenario which is a bit more versatile, a bit more flexible, where you can actually pull in information from multiple different sources here. The second thing here is that it runs every 15 minutes. And what we actually want to do is change this so that it runs every day. So once every day at this time, this scenario will automatically run. And why that's critical is because we only want to generate ideas once every single day. And on top of generating ideas once every single day, we also just want to make sure that we pull in ideas from the previous day, right? So in the instance that we run this module, we don't want to run it every day and then pull in ideas from 10 days ago and then duplicate, ideas from day 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 days ago. We just want to pull in the most recent results that are 1 day old, and then another day is going to pass, and then it's going to pull in again from a full day ago, and then so on and so forth. So you're always getting unique results in this particular workflow. So we're going to build that out. How we do that is we add another module here, and this module is actually going to be your new trigger. So it's going to start with this new module, and we're going to use something called JSON, and we're going to create JSON. Now, JSON is just like a way of structuring data. And moreover, it looks pretty much exactly like the data that we get in any module, right? So if I was to like come into ChatGPT and open it up, you can see it's nicely like we got title, and we got the description, we got the summary and the author. This is JSON data, right? That's being parsed. And it's just easy to use in make.com. But this is JSON data. So we're like, if you've ever used make.com before, which I'm assuming this likely isn't your first time, and even if it is, we've been working through this scenario for a bit of time now. This is what JSON data looks like. You have a key, which is title, and the value is whatever the title actually is. So this is how you reference the title, by finding title, and this is the value. The title key is always going to stay the same, but the actual value of the title is always going to be different. So you can see this title is different than this title, which is different than this title, which is different than this title, which is different than this title, and so on and so forth. But the actual keys, how we reference that, doesn't change, because you always reference the title by the keyword title. So what we're going to do is we're going to, long story short, is we're going to create our own JSON object here using create JSON. And we're going to add a data structure here. And this is going to be AI. I'm just going to call this AI podcasts. And then we're going to add in this data structure, right? And it's going to ask you for a name. And I'm just going to call this list here. So we're creating a list, right? So we can have a list of multiple different RSS feeds. And this list is going to be an array. An array is a list, but an array is just saying list in technical coding terms. They're essentially the same thing, right? And it's going to be an array of text fields. So if that doesn't make sense, let me explain this visually to you. We'll click save. So we have an array of text, and that means that we have a list. Item 1 is in the list. Item 2 is in the list. Item 3 is in the list. Item 4 is in the list. Item 5 is in the list. And we can come in here and add these RSS feeds into this list. So it's a text list because it allows you to put in text, right? This is text, but like, for example, this would be a number, right? But in this instance, we're putting in text into this list, and the list can contain multiple RSS feeds. So if you want to add in many RSS feeds and go through these one at a time, then you can add in as many RSS feeds as you want. So if we come back and we do media and advertising now on New York Times, then we can come in and we can add another RSS feed here, right? So now we have 2 that we're going to pull information from. And now that we have this and we run it, I'm just going to click run anyways. It's going to give us this weird kind of looking output here. It's like list equals this. And it's just like, what the hell does that even mean, right? This is JSON data. It's just not parsed JSON data, which we're used to, right? So once again, this is parsed JSON data, and how this is formed is by parsing information like this, right? So how we go ahead and parse it is by clicking this plus button and clicking on JSON again. And there's a lot of different things in here, right? You can convert JSON to XML, create JSON, parse JSON, transform JSON. But in this case, we're going to parse what we just created, and we're going to map, right, the JSON string. And you can see it hovering again. We're mapping it from what we just created there, that list of different RSS feeds. So we'll click OK. And we'll click run one more time. This error message here is just saying a transformer. JSON is like a transformer module because it transforms information, right? It shouldn't be the last module, right? Because it's transforming data, but something like Google Sheets should be a million other things could be, because this is like doing a specific operation. Like, you're entering the information into Google Sheets. So that for make.com is like, hey, that's a reasonable end to the scenario. But to transform something and then not have anything you're using that transformative data for, it just doesn't make sense to make.com. But we can ignore the warnings here because we're going to be adding on to this anyways. So this will naturally go away. So we'll click run. And we started with this JSON data right here, right, which looks kind of nasty. And then we have this nice, beautiful list here now, which is list number 1 here. List number 2 is here, right? But if I was just to add in this and run it, it's not going to run both lists. It would only maybe run the first list in here, right? So what we need to do is be able to run both of these results first. So we want to go through list number 1 here. And then once that's done, then we want to go through list number 2. And how we do that is we use something called an iterator. And what an iterator does is it takes a list, right? In this case, we have 2 RSS feeds, and an iterator goes through the first result. And then once the first result's done, then it goes to the second result. So it's just breaking it down into every single URL, and it's going through them one at a time until it's completed. And that's exactly how we're going to do this. So we'll click the plus module here, and we're going to choose flow control and then iterator here. And it's going to ask for an array, which is a fancy way of saying list for non-coders. And we can just pass in the list, and you can see it shimmering here. So we're going to pass in this list that we just created, right? Okay, sweet. So we can run this one more time. And now you can see that we had 2 bundles. What this means is that it's going through this list one at a time. So it goes through list 1 here, and then it produces output bundle 1 for this, right? And here's the value that it provided, which is also the value we entered in. And then bundle number 2, it goes to the second URL, which is great. Now we can send this back to the RSS feed, but instead of watching for RSS feed items, we're gonna do something slightly different here. And we're going to retrieve RSS feed items. And our URL that we're going to provide is this value from the iterator, right? So you can see it hovering there on the left side. We're going to choose value. And this value is dynamic in the sense that this value will change. If we're going through the first RSS feed, the value will be the first RSS feed. If we go through the second RSS feed, the value will be the URL of the second RSS feed. Right? So it's going to change based on, where we're at. Maximum number of returned items, we can do 50. And we want to enter in the date from here. So the date from is like, how far back do you want to actually find specific articles from? And for me, I want to have the date from be exactly how often we're scheduling this. So if we're scheduling this to be running once a day, then I only want to pull data from yesterday moving forward, because I don't want to get duplicate results and then accidentally create 2 blogs or podcasts that are the exact same post. So how we can do this is by going into this date function here, and we're going to select add days. And there's 2 fields that it will allow you to enter in, which is a date field, and then how many days you want to add or subtract from that date. So from the add days, we can put in now, which is a timestamp of this literal second, right, that it's run. And then we're going to add in -1 days. So it's going to say this timestamp, which is September 9th at 3:06 p.m. It's going to subtract a day, and it's going to be September 8th at 3:06 p.m., which means that it's going to take all the values or all the posts that were created since the last time we ran this module. And then we can click OK. And that's pretty good. We can actually go ahead and delete this module, delete it, add these back in. And you can see that the title and the description are no longer linked to the right module. So we just got to go ahead and remove that and add these back in from the right module. So I'm just remapping it because it's trying to reference the module that we just deleted there. So we can click OK, this is good to go. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, which is just updating these. And then lastly, I want to make sure that I update the title here. I want to update the description here. And I also want to update the URL here too. Okay, we can click OK. And now let's auto align this, save it, and run. Sweet. So now we've generated 1, 2, and it's just going to keep going through all of these results until we're caught up until all the articles from a day ago, right? So New York Times has clearly been pumping out a ton of different articles in the last day. This is kind of crazy. Okay, sweet. So we have finished. They've produced 12 different articles, which is awesome, right? Now we have our idea. This is the exact article from New York Times. Apple introduces new iPhones with AI features. And then here's their description, and then here's our title, and then here's the script that we just created for the podcast. So we're officially done part number 1 of this. I'm going to click save, and we'll go ahead and we're going to generate the second part of this post here, or it's the second part of this video where we actually go ahead and we generate those AI podcasts. We'll create a new scenario. And this new scenario is going to be called Publishing AI Podcasts. And I'm also in the same vein going to just title this AI Podcast Ideas. Looks good to me. Oops, I'm going to save this. And here, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we only publish this, right, if we check off this box. Right, so we're doing a manual review here and we're checking off. Now, because we're doing a manual review, this is a great point in time to be like, okay, these are great ideas that we got from New York Times, but let's, maybe change this up and we'll change the title. Apple unveils, I don't know, amazing, you get the point, but amazing iPhones with, AI capabilities, and you can do whatever changes you want to it. And then once you're good to go and you've made all the changes you want to, then you click publish. And at that point in time, this new workflow should run. And with that being said, the first thing we need to do is set up a trigger, right, to start this workflow where it runs when this has been checked off, right? So back in our workflow, the first trigger or starting module will be Google Sheets, and you can see where it says instant and acid. These are typically trigger points, and what we're going to do is not necessarily watch for new rows because this would be firing every single time we add something in here, but we want to watch for changes, right? And specifically, the change that we want to watch for is making sure that column F is checked off as being true, right? So it's going to give us a webhook here, and it's going to say, hey, you got to create a webhook. You got to attach these two sheets together so that we can receive information. So we'll click add here, and I'm going to do AI podcast. Click save and copy this address here. Now, this URL that it's giving us here it has two parts to it. It has the domain here and also the subdomain, right? And then another, I think, a subdomain on top of a subdomain inception over here going on. And then we have the unique URL here. So what this is doing is saying, hey, this is our, this is where we're receiving information from. We're sending it to make.com. We're sending it at this unique ID here. And this unique ID is completely unique to this scenario. Like no other scenario is going to have an ID with this, right? So anytime you send data to here, it's only ever going to be received in your account in this one specific scenario, right? So that's how we started. So we need to copy this to the clipboard, and we need to tell Google Sheets to send it to our unique scenario right here anytime we update it. So in Google Sheets, there's 2 steps that we need to do in order for this to work properly. We need to go to extensions, we need to go to add-ons and get add-ons. And this is something you'll only have to do once, and then you're good to go for pretty much life, or until you get a new computer, I guess, or until you change maybe your Google profile. We have to download Make. So you can type Make in here and then just download it right here. And once you've done that, then step 1 is complete, right? So we're just giving Make.com essentially some access to our Google Sheets so that it can send data back to Make.com. And once you click on that, you're going to have access to Make for Google Sheets, and we can click Settings here. Okay. And in the settings, all we have to do is just copy this URL that they gave us, and we just paste it in this URL, webhook URL section here. This will look empty for you guys when you come in here. And then the webhook URL down here, you can paste it in there and click Save. Okay. And what this is doing is it's saying, in this sense, anytime anything changes for whatever reason at any time, however it changes on this spreadsheet here, it will send information back to Google, to Make.com with the exact changes that happen. So if I click OK here and I run this once, and I type in here test, and I click enter, it's going to send that information here. And the value that we just received was test, which is what I wrote in right here, right? And it tells us other information too, like all the rows related to that. So it'll tell us the rows on column or on row 17. And it'll tell us the range, right, which is row 17. And it'll also tell us the column, which is column 4 here. So in the same kind of vein, this is how we're going to figure out if somebody, if you clicked publish here. Okay, cool. So next deal here is we need to just add another module, which is ElevenLabs. And this is going to be to generate the AI podcast for us. And we can choose create a speech synthesis. But just before we move too far ahead, what we need to make sure is that we only make it to ElevenLabs if we check off the publish. Like, we don't want to have something like if you type in down here, it fires this off, right? That could be pretty dangerous to send something to ElevenLabs and then publish it on SoundCloud and Spotify and all that kind of stuff if you type in the wrong message. So in this workflow, we need to click these dots here, and it's going to add in a filter here. I'm just going to call this filter. There's a couple of conditions that need to be met in order for us to actually move forward and generate the podcast and send it to Spotify. The first is that the value has to equal true, right? And what I always like to do is do equals to case insensitive. And if you hover over this, when it's checked, it's true. When it's unchecked, it's false. This is a Boolean logic. Boolean is true or false. There's only 2 values it can have, true or false. So when it's unchecked, it's false. When it's checked, it's true. We want to make sure that it's true, right? Second deal is we want to make sure the column is column F, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need to make sure, of course, that the column is 6. So in case, somebody puts true in here, it's not going to fire it off. Last thing is one more and condition. I want to make sure that the content here in column D exists. So in row values in here, I want to make sure that column D actually has content, because if it doesn't have content, then it's not going to be able to generate that podcast, and the workflow will not work properly. So it'll break. So I just want to make sure there's content available for us to produce from. Next thing is the fun part, which is generating these podcasts. And once you've gone ahead and created your account using ElevenLabs, you can actually come in, and there's so many different voices for you to choose from.
I believe that we are fundamentally the same and have the same basic potential.
Well, thank you very much, Drew. I think the same thing as you do. I appreciate that a lot. And if you don't want to use like a standard stock voice, like our guy Drew down here, you can create your own. You can go to personal, you can add a voice, and then you can, essentially create your own voice too. So that's another option if you want to have it be your own voice. Sweet. So once you've gone ahead and done that, back in our scenario here, you can choose that voice. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose my own. And the model that I want to choose is 11 English version 1, right? Version 2 actually at the time of this recording doesn't work for this. And the text that we want to convert from text to speech is going to be in column D, right? So we'll go ahead, we'll add column D in here. And stability is essentially a value that is between 0 and 1, and it's how expressive you want to sound. So if you're at a 1, it's going to be really monotone and kind of sound like this. And if you're at a 0, it's going to be super, super emphatic and really, really like crazy when you're talking to people and really energetic, right? So you probably don't want a mixture of either of those. So I would put like 0.5, 0.4. I like to have it just a bit more on the emphatic side, right? And then similarity boost is like how similar it's going to be to you. So I'm just going to put in here, like I'll maybe, you know what, I'm going to put in a 0.3. It's not going to be super similar to me. We can go ahead and leave optimized streaming latency the same. Okay, cool. Now, before we actually test this out, what I want to do is I want to save this to Google Drive, first of all, just so that we have these files in Google Drive at any point in time if we want to go back and, you know, edit them or modify or find them or do whatever. So we'll choose upload a file here. And after selecting the right account here, holy cow, that's like overwhelming how many I have there. We can just choose the right folder. So I'm going to select from a list, and I want to select my particular folder here, which is just test folder. Sweet. And in the file section, it already has this mapped, which means that this is creating a file, and we're just going to automatically upload it into the drive. Now, this isn't a mandatory step. This is just something that I like to do because, well, I want to have a copy of it, right? And the last thing here is SoundCloud. So we will publish this to SoundCloud. So uploading a new track in here, go ahead and just connect your SoundCloud in, and then you have the file here. I'm going to click map instead, and it's going to pass in the data of that file, but the name, I don't want it to be the same name. What I want the name to be is from our Google Sheets down below here. Remember how in this scenario we created the title here? Well, I want to add that title into the actual title of this, and I believe that is going to be column C here. So whatever title is, we are going to add it in here. And, you know, there's a couple other things that we can do. I am going to not make it streamable, not downloadable, not commentable. And apart from that, you know, you can add in whatever it is, whatever else you want to add in here. I'll put in the description down below here. And that seems good to me. You can put whatever genre that you want. I'm just going to go ahead and choose technology here. And that's it. I think we're pretty much good to go. This is going to automatically upload that into SoundCloud after we generate it from ElevenLabs. So let's go ahead. Let's run this once. We're going to wait for new data. And I'm going to publish this second article here. And coming back in here, we've created it. It's passed the filter, right? And then it's going to generate the voice from ElevenLabs. It's going to save it, and then it's going to publish on SoundCloud. So if I go back and I go to my profile down here, back here. So here we go. We just generated it.
In a significant move, the Justice Department has initiated a second antitrust trial against Google, accusing the tech giant of monopolistic practices in online advertising. The prosecution is pushing for a breakup of Google's ad technology operations, asserting that the company dominates a substantial portion of the market.
And that's it, guys. I mean, that's how you can push a podcast onto SoundCloud. And just the last thing here is coming to the three dots and going to the settings. You'll just want to make sure under the content tab that you have your RSS feed listed here. You include in RSS feed uploads by default, and you just pass this RSS feed into Spotify, into Apple podcasts, anywhere you want your podcast to be uploaded to. And then it's going to automatically take that and push it into those platforms as well. And that's essentially how you can generate an AI podcast using make.com. So thank you guys for watching it if you made it to the end. I really hope you found value in this video. If you did and you're new to this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And yeah, if you guys have questions, just leave it in the comment section below as well. And I hope you guys found value in this, and good luck building your own AI podcast. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks and bye-bye.